Hello, and thank you for joining my podcast. Um, Today I'll be talking about Congress again. It's going to be basically about maybe 3 to 4 parts for this first time, or that initial um, collection of videos that I'm making. Um, I want to talk about the incident that I experienced in the military that I mentioned in my previous podcast about the bonuses and the financial benefits that I received when I was serving in the Army. And I'm specifically talking about the retention bonus of $20,000 and the 46,500 student repayments. Basically, you're going to wonder, why is this important that I keep bringing this up and talk about it and the details of it? Well, the reason this is important because I feel like, you know, Congress specifically is in charge of making laws, and the laws they made um, pertaining to this incident basically were fraudulent laws. They basically had laws that authorized the United States government to basically commit fraud against its citizens. And I'm going to explain how that came about. Remember, I received a $20,000 retention bonus in 1 year. And at the end of the year, of course, it was added to my income and I paid taxes on it. Then the following year, I received the 46,500 student loan repayment. Same thing by the end of that year. I had to pay taxes on that money, and it put me at a higher bracket of income, uh, and that caused me to pay almost $10,000 worth of federal taxes. I don't remember the amount of money I paid for the state, but I'm going to focus on the federal taxes for the purpose of this episode. So later, a few years later, if you remember, I mentioned that they basically said that, and this happened to 20,000 veterans, again, as a reminder, that I should have known, I either knew that I shouldn't have received the money or should have known. And that was the legal justification they used to basically raid my income and basically and take 20% of my income, the money that I was making in the military, which is a significant amount of money. When they decided to take it back, there was nothing I can do, so they started taking the money back, and I called to see if they would take it from my gross pay instead of my net pay. And I told them that I basically, when I received the money, I paid taxes on it. And now it looks like I'm being taxed twice on the same amount of money. So they said, no, because you received the money these year, the year, whatever, you received the 20,000, the following year, you received 46,500, so you have to pay taxes. You can't amend your taxes. So I can't amend my taxes, even though they were collecting the money back from me. I can't go back and amend my taxes. And I can't ask them to take the money from my gross pay rather than my net pay, because it would have reduced the amount a little bit, the impact that it had on my paycheck a little bit. And at the time, it was really causing me a financial hardship. So they refused to do that. And Congress is responsible for that. They're the ones that made these laws and made these regulations and are not basically supervising the IRS, monitoring what the IRS is doing and their regulations and, uh, you know, what they're doing with people. And the same thing with the military, they could not do anything. Well, they were also limited to what they can do. Even if they wanted to help, they were limited in what they can do to help because, well, the law is the law. They have to abide by the law. And the law comes from where? Comes from Congress. So when this whole, issue came out to the surface and unfolded, nobody really went into the details of things to look at the root cause of the problem and try to come up with a good fix for the problem that would be fair and beneficial to the American people that were impacted by this. And we're talking about 20,000 service members. How shameful is that? How shameful that they did not want to do the right thing by the service members who served this country and sacrificed for it and its people. So the United States, basically government, double dipped. They got their taxes on the amount of money I received, and then they continued to tax me on the amount of money they were taking back. So what kind of government does that to its citizens? And why would the American people be okay with that? Is beyond me. Why are the American people tolerating these laws and this behavior from Congress that is empowering the behavior of the IRS or the military or any organization in the federal government? It's beyond me. Why aren't you holding Congress accountable? And that brings me to the topic of voting, because the whole idea behind these podcasts is to help the American citizen basically to clear the fog and give the American citizen more visibility on, what they should look for when they vote for people in Congress. Because again, I'm going to reiterate and say it again, the president is not the most important person in this government, because the president also has to follow the law that is enacted by Congress. The president is also um, doesn't have much leverage with spending because the spending authorization comes from Congress. So there's always this push by the media for you to look at presidential candidates, and they all stand there and tell you, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And honestly, they can't do anything without congressional approval. And members of Congress fly under the radar, and, they get voted over and over and over. Why doesn't Congress have term limits just like the presidency? Why are they allowed to serve for 40 years, 35 years? The same person? How can you expect any change to happen in this country if you keep voting for the same person over and over again for 35 years, 40 years? And again, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Some of them die in office. Why is that okay with the American people is beyond me. Why is it that Congress gets paid when the government shuts down and the people don't? And there's no impact on them when they shut down the government, but there is a great deal of impact on the American citizens. So that's why it's important to look at the candidates and don't let them, you know, blow smoke and cause you to be confused, and don't allow them to get you emotional about the elections when you really need to focus and use your mental power to decide, not your emotions, but what your brain is telling you as the most beneficial candidate. So they use tricks like, oh, vote for this party is better than this party. And the truth is, it doesn't matter who is the majority in Congress, the result is the same. Do you know what they do? Do you know what they get done? Zero. Nothing. They get nothing done because they don't have to, because people don't hold them accountable. People keep voting for the same person, even if they were a poor performer. Even if they didn't meet your expectations, they keep voting for the same person. Familiar name, or this person got a ton of money from donors, you know, and no rich donor is going to give, millions of dollars to any political candidate without expecting anything in return. I mean, let's use some common sense and logic. And I want you to know the power of money and its effect on Congress and the political class in this country. Let's take a number like $1 million. Let's say a wealthy person donates $1 million to a political campaign. How many what is the average donation by the average, American citizen? $20, $30, $100 for a campaign. How many $100 are in $1 million? That's how many votes this person has. That person's voting power equals that many people. And that's why Congress doesn't get anything done for you, the average person, the hardworking American. So one way of taking power back and regaining control of your government and what the government is doing is by pushing to change the laws, voting for people that are similar to you, care about you, went through some experiences like you did. They do all these scandals, all the political talk and all these issues, the nonsense issues. They just bring up nonsense issues. Nobody wants to talk about inflation. Nobody wants to talk about how the American people are struggling every day and they can't buy houses, they can't, buy cars, they can't do anything. And nobody talks about the extremely high interest rates and the profits banks are making off of you. I mean, ridiculous profits. And I'm not advocating that, control the banks and, reverse this from a free market to a controlled market. That's not what I'm talking about. But everything with reason is good. When things are overboard in anything, then that's not a good thing. And right now, the banking system is not good for this country, and Congress is not doing anything about it. And the reason they will never do anything about it, because they keep getting millions of dollars from the donors with a lot of money that basically suck all the oxygen out of the room. All the American people, look at how many people equal $1 million. That's how many votes we lose. One person. One person donates $1 million, and I know some donate more than $1 million. And look at the amount of money the both presidential campaigns last year in 2024 collected from donors. We are talking about now billions of dollars. Billions, not millions, billions of dollars. So how do you expect to change anything when this is happening? So the Supreme Court said, oh, money is like free speech, so people can donate. Well, they might be legally right, but what's happening is money is robbing the American citizen from their power to vote and control who represents them in Congress, right? So look at the money, look at the sources of donations for every candidate, and look at how they're living when they went to Congress as opposed to now, what their lifestyle is like. Because that's important. That shows you this person is getting a lot of donations from wealthy people, and now they're wealthy, so they're not like you. They're not where the rubber meets the road anymore. They have no clue how much you pay for eggs and milk and this and that and insurance, medical insurance, all these things that people need to survive. So that's why I'm sharing these stories with you, to just show you uh, evidence of wrongdoing, not just give you a political analysis of current events and a push for this and a push for that. When people say America first, what do they mean by that? We need to focus on what America first means. America first means the American citizen is first. Who is America? America, it's what makes America. What makes America is the people, the American people. So when you're not number one priority for your representatives, then it's not America first. When you are the number one priority, when what you want is the number one priority, when you are represented by people that are similar to you in thought, in life experience, then you become priority. But until then, you're never going to be a priority. So please think about that. And I will be sharing more stories with you to just show you how deep this corruption is, and how big the problem with Congress is. Just little stories that will show you the dysfunction that we have in this government, and how the priority is not you, the American citizen, and it's definitely not America, but everything else, everyone on the outside, is their priority as opposed to you, because foreign agendas are being pushed on them every day with money. So, that's what controls them, not you. So take control, take charge of your government and what the government does. Make sure the people you're voting for will represent you and defend you and take care of you, not go to Washington, D.C. and backstab you. Thank you for joining me again, and I look forward to seeing you again on my next podcast. Thank you so much.